You're listening to the How to Talk to Girls podcast, where you'll learn step-by-step how to meet and seduce beautiful women. Whether you're looking for one night of fun, a week-long fling, or a long-term relationship. I'm your host, Trip, and the episode starts now.
Hello, welcome. This is the How to Talk to Girls podcast. And today's episode, which you already know because I'm sure you're reading the title before you listen. There's so many different topics, so you're probably only picking the ones that really concern you. And I know that this one's probably going to not get as many listens as some others because it only pertains to a specific audience, but I had to make it. And I think this is going to be a really important episode for those of you who are going through a divorce or have been divorced. And one of the reasons I got inspired to make this episode is because I got a voicemail, which unfortunately I would have loved to play for you here on the podcast. But at the end, he said he wanted it to be confidential. And I respect everyone's confidentiality. So I won't be able to play it, but that's okay because I'm still going to tell you exactly what he asked and dive into really kind of like a mini guide or a mini system for those of you who have been divorced or for those of you who are going through one right now. And by the way, this is not going to be the last episode I ever do on divorce. I definitely will do more in the future, especially because I know I'm not going to cover every single thing that I can cover in terms of what it means to date after or during a divorce, but I'm going to get through as much as I can, okay? So we're going to get into that and coming to you just another episode with you and I, no other interviews. I'm going to be putting out some more episodes here coming up, which are just going to be me because I miss doing these. And, you know, I think it's good to be able to just sit here and talk to you and not necessarily have to ask other people's opinions, but really give you some stuff from the Trip Advice brain, so to speak. So we'll get into it in just a second. As you know, if you've been listening and if you don't know already, and this is your first time here, especially if you're a guy who's divorced, well, I have coaching available, one-on-one coaching that's available through the URL coachedbytrip.com. Trip@2ps.com. So whether you're divorced, going through a divorce, or maybe you're just an avid listener of the podcast and you're 20, 30 years old, doesn't matter where you are. If you're trying to learn how to succeed in dating, as long as you're over 18, I can help you. As long as you're willing to put in some work that I give you, some exercises, some techniques, some homework that I give you through the coaching process, and you're willing to do that, and you desire results in the form of sex with beautiful women, a potential girlfriend, looking for a wife, looking for a second wife, looking to just have a fun dating life. If any of those are something you crave, that you want, that you wish you had, and not just with any girl that you settle with, but an actual quality girl, I can help you get that. Why? Well, you should already know why. If you've listened to the podcast, I have some advice, and it works. It really does. The guys who sign up for coaching get amazing results. I have guys who get girlfriends, lose their virginity, have a dating life that's amazing. I have guys that end up going on multiple dates, getting over their approach anxiety. So if you're a guy out there, and I work with a lot of guys who have approach anxiety, they just don't know what to say to a girl when they go up to them. They can't even go up to them because they're just got that intense fear of rejection. We help conquer that. And I will solve that for you with a customized plan. So apply today. I do not take everyone on as a client because I only have so many slots available, but more have opened up because I have guys that are finishing their program. So there's room for you. So if you want to apply, it's very simple. Go to coachedbytrip.com, fill out the application. You got to be over 18. Of course, if you're under 18, unfortunately, I cannot work with you. Even if you do get your parents' consent, I can only work with you if you are an adult. So if you're an adult and you're over 18 and you are ready to get results, apply. I read them, not my assistant, no one else. I go through them word by word and see if you're a good fit. If you are, we'll get on the phone, we'll talk, and we'll further connect and see if you are a good fit and kind of go from there. So coachedbytrip.com, coaching available to you, and we'll get you some help. All right, let's get into today's episode. We're talking about Ooh, the big D word. Now, I've never been divorced. I cannot speak to that. I have a couple friends who have been divorced. At the time of recording this podcast, I'm 34 years old. They say that the statistics are 50 to 60% of people married in America get divorced. Apparently, there's a new article that came out maybe a year ago that said that divorce rates are going down. They think maybe it's going down due to the fact that people are waiting longer to get married. Therefore, they're making a better decision and not just rushing into it. Who knows? But we can all agree at the very least, divorce rate is high. One of my theories is that guys don't know how to meet women and they don't know how to qualify for a woman, meaning they don't know how to qualify her to make sure if she's a good fit. Okay, they don't know how to do that. And that's perfectly normal. I didn't know how to do that either. I had to go through multiple relationships to figure out how to do that. I actually talk about that in my book. If you don't have my book, there's a whole chapter in the back about how to get a girlfriend. And I go into a whole system where I talk about how to find a girl who's the right fit for you. Long story short, you basically got to have a few things that you're looking for. I call them the 3 non-negotiables. And if you can figure out what those 3 things are and go into dating knowing what those 3 things are and being just really intense with it and making sure that you're not settling, then you have a higher chance of getting into a better relationship, therefore a lower chance of divorce. Of course, there's a lot of other factors involved that can make a divorce, so that's not the end-all be-all. But I do still believe that a lot of guys just kind of settle and just kind of jump into it because they think it's the thing to do and they found a girl that they think is amazing, but they don't think they can get better. So then they go for it and they end up divorced. One of my friends got married when he was 21 years old. 21. Big wedding, everything, lots of speeches. The wedding was probably, at least a couple $10,000, maybe $20,000, $30,000. And yet it ended within a year. I believe the statistics are that you're more likely to get divorced if you're married under 25, and somewhere between 30 and 35, if you get married, your chances are the lowest. Maybe that's because, again, you're more serious and you're picking seriously and not just kind of doing it on a whim because maybe you're young and you don't really know any better. Who knows? Just some theories. So, yeah, I had another friend who ended up getting divorced. He was married at 24, got divorced at 30. So he ended up unfortunately getting divorced. His wife was unfaithful, unfortunately, and they were not in a happy marriage, which is probably what led her to be unfaithful. Not saying that what she did was right. It was absolutely wrong. But maybe there was ways that they could have prevented it going to that route if they communicated more, if they had more of a sex life, things like that. So yeah, I know I'm not someone who's been divorced. I've only been through breakups, so I do not know what it's like. But I know that it's pretty rough. And I feel for all you men out there, the ones listening especially, who have gone through a divorce and are trying to navigate that. Especially if you have kids, it's tough. And I work with, by the way, I'd say about 30% of the clientele that I work with in terms of coaching are divorced or are going through a divorce. And I'd say about 50%, no, maybe more, maybe 70% of the divorced clients that I work with have kids. So just FYI, you're not shit out of luck. Whether you decide to do coaching with me or just listen to this podcast and the various episodes, or read the book or go on the YouTube channel, whatever it may be, you're not screwed. So that's my first little note to you. Those of you who are divorced and you're like in your 30s, 40s, 50s, and you're like, I don't know what to do at this point. I don't know what to do. I'm so out of the dating game. I've been married for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. What am I supposed to do here? And I got that stamp on me, that divorce stamp. First of all, don't worry about that because there's plenty of people out there who've been divorced, so it's not weird. It's more of a stigma in society these days to stay with someone and not get a divorce. When I say that, I mean stay with someone in a bad relationship. Like it looks worse on you. When you get a divorce or you go through a breakup, it's weird. People are kind of like, they're happy for you. They're sad that you went through a divorce, but they're happy for you because you're out of a bad relationship. And I agree with that. It's interesting. I was engaged at one point. That is right. Tripp was engaged. I don't share much about my personal life, but I'm starting to do a little bit more of that so you guys can learn from me. I was engaged. This is maybe like 5 years ago. And it was interesting. I'm the one who broke off the engagement because I realized this was not the right relationship to be in. I found out a little bit later than I wanted to. And I got a lot of praise, and I did not expect that. Everyone I told, they were like, good for you, man. I was like, good for me? What? I can't believe you're saying that to me right now. Good for me? Why good for me? And people would be like, well, you had the balls to do it. You had the balls to break it off when you knew it wasn't going to be right. And they were right. It was pretty amazing that I had the courage to say, you know what? I don't see this is going to work because it's hard. We were already planning the wedding. Man, that was tough. It was tough to just break that off. A lot of people have probably been in that situation. They say, I'm just going to go through with it. I made the commitment. And I'm glad that I didn't go through with it because it was not the right relationship. It sure was not. And I'm guessing it probably would have ended up in divorce. And I didn't want that. So I took the hit and I just decided to end it months before we were going to get married. So yeah, I'm proud of myself for doing that. But I also shouldn't have jumped into that either way because I should have known earlier that she was not the right one. But I had to go through multiple relationships to find out what that meant to me and how to navigate that. And I learned a lot, and that's where I teach you. So I don't know, maybe I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent here, although we are sticking to the topic. I guess my point is that, I understand divorce is hard, but the bottom line is you can and will be able to find someone else after divorce. It is possible. It is possible, even if you are in your 50s or 60s. So the guy who ended up calling in and leaving a voicemail who wanted to be confidential, his problem was, I'm going through this divorce and I'm not divorced yet, but I met a girl and I was honest with her. And I said to her, hey, I'm going through a divorce, but I still really like you. And she would agree to meet up with him, but she said she would never allow it to be a date because he's not fully gone through the divorce yet. Now, I'll say this. If I was a dating coach for women and I was giving her advice, I'd say 100% don't talk to this guy. Like, don't get into something with him because he's going through a nasty divorce. Even if the divorce isn't nasty, divorces are just always nasty. There's no divorce where it's just like, oh, we're both so happy and it's such a clean thing. Maybe one out of, 100,000 end up that way. But there's always something, whether it be, money issues, you're separating that, children, custody battles, and just the emotion of going through the heartbreak of losing someone that you once were married to. I can't imagine what that's like. So of course I would tell a woman, like, no, don't get involved with someone. They're going through something. They're not at their complete level yet. They're not the complete them. They're going through some shit. So I would tell a woman to not go for that guy. However, I know this is going to sound oddly contradictory, but as a guy, I would still tell you to go out and date. As long as you're separated, like it's 100% you guys are getting divorced and it's happening for sure. Like if you want to go out and date, go do that. Sure. It might not be the best time for you, but only you can decide that. I can't decide that for you. So you just got to be really honest with yourself. Are you really over her? Are you really ready to start dating again and put yourself out there? And only you know the real answer, like the true, honest answer to yourself. So whatever that answer is, go for it. Some people are ready. They've been checked out of their marriage for years, and only now are they finally getting a divorce. So they've been ready. They've been ready to move on and meet someone new. So it all depends. But I guess my big point here is to the guy who left a voicemail. To that guy, yeah, man, it's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough to go out there and try to date a woman and let them know that you're going through a divorce. Like that's going to be something that's going to be kind of tough, right? That's going to be kind of tough. So what I recommend that you do, is that you try to create a sense of self again after your divorce, okay? Take 3 months. That's not really that long. It will go by fast. But at the end of the day, it is a substantial amount of time to really focus on yourself. What does that mean? That means spend time alone. Of course, if you have kids, you got to take care of the kids. But when you're not, spend time alone. Remember what it's like to be with you. Remember what you are like. Remember the things that you like. What is it? Who are you? You tend to get lost sometimes in relationships, especially when you've kind of molded into one. You molded into one person because you've been spending so much time with someone. You've been creating a family unit. So your sense of self has a high chance of deteriorating because you're melding into this family unit. So it's time to find yourself again. And this can be fun. What do you like to do? What are you interested in? You can do those. You have more freedom now. You definitely have more freedom now, so you can go and try some new hobbies. Meet up with some other friends that maybe you're not able to meet up with because you were always busy. Maybe you can focus more on your career. Maybe there's a side hustle. Maybe it's time for you to sign up for one-on-one coaching with Trip at coachedbytrip.com. It's time to find you again and do the things that are going to be good for you. And yes, that can be going out and meeting women, like I said, right? You can do coaching, you can put that into practice, but also make sure that if you're going to be doing that, you're still working on you on the side. And if I'm really being honest, it's probably better for you, to have done a little bit of that, before you start meeting women and even before you start doing coaching. Spend just a minute of your time finding yourself again. 3 months may be a stretch. At least do it for a month. What is it like to reconnect with yourself, to just come home from a day's work and be alone? Maybe that means you got to get a new apartment, a new place, build a new life. Maybe that means connecting with people who are not in marriages or relationships and going and talking to people who are single. Maybe that's going out and trying to meet people again and make friends. What I'm trying to say here is try to cultivate a new you so you'll actually be ready for a new relationship. Of course, if you're just looking to date around and have fun, you might not need that. But if you're going to be looking for a relationship again, then by all means, you need to have a new sense of self, a new sense of who you are. And one of the strongest traits you could have or skills is the ability to be alone before you get into a relationship. And that is because you got to be comfortable with who you are. If you're not comfortable with who you are, you're not going to be comfortable in a relationship and it's going to be tough. So you got to kind of build that self-esteem again, build that confidence again. Not to keep on plugging coaching, but we do that as well. Okay, we build that sense of self again. We build the confidence inside of you to remember, oh yeah, I'm like a worthy person. Because I know a divorce can hammer you down really hard. I know it can sting pretty bad. It knocks out potentially a lot of your bank account, your self-worth, less time with your kids. So it's like, well, who are you? Who are you in the grand scheme of things? Again, if you don't have that covered, it could be tough for a woman to be attracted to you. And even if you get her attracted, you might end up being really needy because your self-esteem is so low. And you might end up ruining that relationship. So it's about healing. And that's kind of what you're going to be doing, healing. Maybe it's seeing a therapist. Maybe it's getting into some meditation. Maybe it's taking a week off of work and just going on a vacation all alone. I think you can see the pattern here of what I'm getting at. You can come up with some ideas on your own. But these are some ideas for you. Working on yourself to then get back out there. And to hopefully finalize that divorce as much as you can before getting back out there. I know that the woman will appreciate that. She'll appreciate that for sure. And that's probably why it's hard for our caller who called in and left his voicemail to be able to go after this girl. And I know what he was asking. He was asking, well, how do I get this girl to see past that? Honestly, you're not in the place. I can tell. You're not in the place to be dating anyone, especially someone like this. You need to go back to who you are, go back to the roots, and then start seeing other people. I don't ever want you guys to be chasing after a girl desperate when they're already rejecting you. And this girl is clearly rejecting him. So please, let's move on. Let's move on. Let's move past all this so you can display the clean, healthy you, the person that a girl's really going to want to be with. Let's do that. Let's work on that. I'd say that's my main advice for today's episode, really. And again, I know I've never been divorced. I can't speak to it and how it feels. I can't imagine what it's like. But I still know what it's like to go through at least a breakup. And I do know what it's like to be at an all-time low. I've worked with clients who've been at all-time lows. Not saying that divorces necessarily bring you to an all-time low, but I know it does for many guys. And so because I know how that works and I know what a low point's like, I understand how to get you back up from that low. And that is the focus on you. So it doesn't matter if you've been through a divorce or you're a widower or a bad breakup, the girl that you were in love with doesn't ever want to see you again. Whatever the case, whatever the low point, it's always time to focus back on you. That's the most important. I hope that makes sense. Well, I think I've made my point. It just takes, time for it to really soak in. And I need to repeat myself, but I hope it helps. And I do. And we'll do more episodes just like this. I just wanted to get something out there for all you guys who are, going through the divorce, have the big D word hanging over their head. Don't worry, there is a place for you in the future with a really great woman. So life is not over. You have time. We can get you back out there. Like I said, today's lesson, focus on you first. And then once you're in a happy, better place, happy mood, then you get out there and start dating again. And how do you do that? How do you get help? Well, like I said, coachedbytrip.com is a way to do coaching and speed up the process. Listen to the podcasts, get my book, follow me on Instagram at TripAdvice. There's lots of resources for you here. Lots of episodes on this podcast. So let's have you get to that point next after you work on the self stuff. Sound good? Hope this helps. We'll talk to you next time on the How to Talk to Girls podcast.